The reputation of 1,000 years may be determined by the conduct of 1 hour. This will be the case line on side proposition, and we will follow through with this case line throughout our whole debate. On side proposition, we see the fundamental issue as equity versus equality. This will be the main focus of our debate. Before I begin my speech, however, I would like to define the terms. I will define this House as the Canadian government, allocate as in reserve, Aboriginals as in all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people, with at least one pure Aboriginal parent, House of Commons as a legislative building where representatives make decisions. I will now introduce my model. So every Canadian would only get 1 vote, and there will be Aboriginal ridings based on population, not geographical location. There would be 1 representative per 100,000 Aboriginals, which equals 12 seats in the House of Commons. These ridings will overlap the regular existing constituencies, and the Aboriginal representatives can be of any party, including an independent party. An Aboriginal person can vote for a candidate of any ethnicity, and we are not taking away seats, but adding to our current total of 308 seats. My argument today is going to be equity over equality and taking the first step. My partner will bring up awareness of issues in Aboriginal society, reiterate my points on equity, and also bring up historically oppressed Aboriginals. I will now begin with my constructive speech. So my first argument, equity due to historical oppression. So we think that in this debate, equity is more important than equality. Firstly, what is equity? Equity is a morality in which we realize that equality is impossible, but we try to achieve fairness and justice at the same time. Equity is about quality, not quantity. And we think that Aboriginals deserve some equity. That would be the only way they will ever be accepted in society, if we are fair to their situation. We need to make up for all the wrong we have done. We have oppressed them. Europeans oppressed them. And as we are now living in Canada's benefits, we have every right to make up for this mistake. We can't leave this mistake to sit around, because if we forgive and forget, it's impossible. We can never forget what we did. And Aboriginals are humans with the same rights entitled to them. If we want to be equitable, we will give them what they deserve. And ladies and gentlemen, the side proposition realizes that this will upset people. People will wonder why Aboriginals are getting the special treatment. But we need to weigh individual concern versus majority benefits. Would we rather do what we know is right, or would we rather worry about what other people think about our equitable treatment? Other people don't know what it's like to have everything taken away from them, to be forced to live on reserves and not say anything at all for the sake of peace. If we truly wanted equality, everyone would be a bunch of white males. But as we are multicultural, we need to support individuality and look at the big picture. What have we done, and what will we do to make it better? Ladies and gentlemen, I have given you the answer. The solution is to give Aboriginal seats in the House of Commons. This way, equity will be achieved and will make Aboriginals feel more accepted as people in society, with the same rights and freedoms as us. That is the true purpose of allocating seats for Aboriginals. My next argument will be taking the first step. Ladies and gentlemen, in every case of oppression before this, there was someone to take the first step. The suffragettes stood up for what they wanted and got it back. If we can win back rights for women, then we can get Aboriginals back their rights. Yeah.
So why do you think Aboriginal people are so grossly underrepresented in the House of Commons?
We think they're underrepresented because so far people don't even care about them. And what we're doing is making people care about them, because Aboriginals would do anything to be in the House of Commons. It's just that we as citizens of Canada think that they're not good enough, oh, who cares about them? We have so many stereotypes towards them. So if we put them in the House of Commons, which they'd be wanting to do anyway, that would fix all these issues about historical oppression and the fact that equity matters more. So continuing with my speech. If there's no one's example to follow, then there will be no followers. So not all of us are born leaders. Some of us need to take the first step. What I mean is saying that the government is a leader, and it is responsible for everything that's happened to the Aboriginals. And they have the responsibility, the government has a responsibility to fix this mistake. We would be further benefiting them if we could just realize that some Aboriginals are already educated. It is just that the rest of Canadians are the people not encouraging them to step up. If we gave them some encouragement, if we took the first step and put them in the House of Commons, we'd start a legacy of representation, of proper equity. The educated Aboriginals deserve a chance to be represented too. They're human beings just like all of us. So ladies and gentlemen, what have I shown you today? I have shown you why the main pillars on side proposition will remain standing throughout this debate, why equity due to historical oppression needs to work. We need equity so that we can have a fair society. Equality can never work, because if we want equality and not put Aboriginals in the House of Commons for the sake of equality, It's too late. Aboriginals will never be equal because we've oppressed them so much. So we need to keep in mind what their best interests are. We need to keep in mind what they really need. And what they really need is to be represented. What they really need is to have a voice. And that will be my partner's argument. So we need to take the first step, ladies and gentlemen, and teach Aboriginals that this is the way we do it. This is how you can be represented. Otherwise, how will they know? They need to follow someone's example. And the government shall set this example. Ladies and gentlemen, for these reasons, this resolution must and will, with your help, stand.
I thank the opposition first speaker for her remarks and remind the judge, that they should not thwart any debater until they have listened to all the speakers. We should now hear the first speaker from the opposition. If the opposition intends to contest the government's definitions of introduce and contour plan, it must do so during this address.
All citizens of state Ladies and gentlemen, what I'll do for you today is present side opposition's case line, case split, present our first two arguments, and then clash before concluding my submission. On side opposition, our case line is that if this House would allocate seats for Aboriginal people in the House of Commons, it fundamentally undermines the duties of a government to its society. I'll present an argument about equality within minority groups and how we don't address the real problem affecting First Nations people. My partner will present an argument about how it's undemocratic to reserve seats for Aboriginal people in the House of Commons. I'll then present our first argument. What is the basis of our society? It's individual sovereignty. Individual sovereignty is at its very core having ownership of yourself and your actions. Everything that we can control is essentially individual sovereignty. It's individual opinion and is protected by individual rights. Individual sovereignty in itself is a right. Yes?
Don't you agree that it's the government's duty to make up for what it has done wrong, and that's why we need to allocate seats?
Ladies and gentlemen, the government should make up for what's done wrong, but it shouldn't be doing this in a way that fundamentally undermines their democratic scheme. We can see that in the opinion of side opposition, the ends certainly do not meet the means of what they have done to achieve this. Now, as I was saying, individual sovereignty in itself is a right. It's the right to make choice, to have the ability to take action, and the ability to be able to claim the consequences of these choices. It's essentially the concept behind capitalism, hard work, and a democracy or republic. Now, we can see individual sovereignty in itself. Yes?
Don't you agree that Aboriginals do work hard, but we oppress them so much they don't have a chance to speak out?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, in Canada, we already have taken steps to stop this. We have already put employment equality options. We have already made self-governance issues. Ladies and gentlemen, in a modern society such as Canada, we have already taken the steps that are necessary to stop discrimination, and now it's up to the First Nations people to be able to meet their own needs. Now, we can see that individual sovereignty in itself is the ability to own yourself. Individual rights are designed to protect your sovereignty. No outside factors should be allowed to affect it. So ladies and gentlemen, what is equality? Equality is when everyone is on an equal playing field of some sort. In our society, equality is connected to individual freedoms and individual sovereignty. The actions we do solely determine our outcomes. So what if we're not rewarded for our actions or rewarded for our inactions? This is essentially what side proposition proposes to do. They are giving precedence to First Nations people in the House of Commons, while other minority groups at the same time are working hard to become a political power and find proper representation. It fundamentally brings outside factors into our individual sovereignty. Side proposition wants this to happen. They want the government to be irresponsible and inconsistent in their methods to reach the end that they want. This means the means in which they do